آل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For the following 19 nights, inshallah, before the lecture, it's something that I like to do often, so we have a bit of fiqh and Islamic law in Shahr Ramadan. Since we're fasting, it's good that we know the conditions of fasting. Inshallah, we're going to pray afterwards as well. So before every lecture, we'll speak just a minute or two on some ahkam, so we know the conditions of fasting. So the first condition that one should know when willing to fast is the intention, which is a given. But one must consciously make that intention within. You don't have to say an actual word. Make the intention that tomorrow I'm fasting. It has to be before Fajr of the following day. Something easier to do for you is, since you're going to be fasting the whole month, instead of every single night repeating the intention before Fajr, right now you can make the intention, I'm going to fast the whole month. So the whole month is wajib for me, I'm going to fast the whole month. So the intention is the first thing, that's wajib upon us, it's a condition, part of the fasting. Secondly, another condition of fasting is puberty. So those below the age of puberty can fast and practice, but it's not actually a wajib upon them, it's not obligatory upon them to fast. It's obligatory upon those who have gone past puberty. Now some might ask, like, a girl goes through puberty at age 9 in Islam. So she's 9 years old, she has to fast the whole time, and it's sometimes difficult for the young girl. If it gets to a stage where she can't go on, she's in so much pain, and she can't deal with it, she can break the fast, it's okay, and she has to redo it afterwards when she's ready. But she redoes it afterwards, but it has to be a level where she can't go on anymore. And it's actually, the same goes for everyone. But it has to be a level where you can't get out of bed. But Sayyid Sistani, he says that if a man is at work, for example, and he feels like this, he can't go on, then let him have just a little bit of water. He breaks the fast, but out of respect for the day, he doesn't eat anymore. So he breaks the fast, he takes what he needs till he recovers, but he doesn't eat anymore, he doesn't drink anymore. And then he has to redo that day afterwards. Those are for the followers of Sayyid Sistani, the last part. Tomorrow we'll talk about the next conditions. Sallallahu Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala.
So yesterday we had a little geography lesson about the Arabian Peninsula, the area in which Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi was born in. We went 3,000 years back to the time of Abraham. We said that Abraham came to this land by the order of God. There was a divine plan. And he planted Ismail there, so that generations later, Rasulullah can be born into this land. Now, the historians sometimes in their books, they say because there was Jahiliyyah in this land, because of the Asnam and the idols. But we said that it was because of two major components. The first one being that the tribes were not unified. There was not one person who could rule over all the tribes, which means there could be no Fir'aun who could organize 100,000 and order them to fight Islam, like what Musa went through, or what Isa went through, or what Ibrahim went through with Nimrod. Secondly, no outer kingdom would want to come into that land because there was no rivers, no water, the water wells were hundreds of kilometers apart, so no Roman army, no Persian army had an interest in that land. So if Rasulullah came into that land, he would be safe from anyone coming in or anyone coming out. No kingdom, within or without. Okay. Then we come to the tribe of Quraish. This is the tribe of Rasulullah. This Quraish, this name, till now the Islamic Ummah feels the fire coming from this tribe of Quraish. Rasulullah was a Quraishi. Imam Ali alayhi salam was a Quraishi. But this tribe, one must know what is Quraish. What's the story of Quraish? Once we understand what Quraish is, we understand so much more about what the Prophet had to go through, who the Prophet was sent down to, this exact tribe. Now how did this tribe come about? We go back to Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. When he came and he planted Ismail there, and he left, he went back to Palestine. He came back to that land when Nabi Ismail was 14 years old. He came back to Mecca. The tribe of Jurhum had gone into Mecca and settled there with Ismail. Ismail grew up in that tribe because of the water. At this age, the vision came to Nabi Ibrahim, the famous story that we all know, that he had to sacrifice his son. And so his son tells him, inshallah, you'll see me as one of the patient ones. He accepts. He takes him to Mina, where he must sacrifice him. And this is why we take in Hajj the goats to Mina and we sacrifice over there. Much of Hajj comes from Nabi Ibrahim. And of course, Ismail was not sacrificed, he was replaced. At that time, Shaitan was whispering as much as he could in Ibrahim's ear. Shaitan was going crazy. All he had to do was do sujood to Adam, and he wouldn't do it. Ibrahim's going to slaughter his own son for Allah. Shaitan was going crazy. How could someone do that? As much as he could, he was trying to pressure Nabi Ibrahim not to do that. Nabi Ibrahim, he started throwing stones. That's why in Hajj they throw stones at the symbol, which they believe to be Shaitan, or the symbol of Shaitan. Then him and Ismail went and they built the walls of the Kaaba. And they went tawaf around it 7 times. So they performed the Hajj. They performed the Hajj, and Nabi Ibrahim started calling everyone Halumma al-Hajj, Halumma al-Hajj. He's calling everyone to Hajj now. That's why when we go, we say Allahumma labbaik, Allahumma labbaik. We're answering the call of Nabi Ibrahim. So they performed the Hajj, and he told everyone to come, and then he went back. He went back to Palestine, where his son Ishaq was. Now, 2-3 years later, people from all around the world were coming to Mecca. They had heard that there has been a house built there, the house of God, and they had come to visit it, to perform the Hajj. That's why so many prophets after Nabi Ibrahim came to perform the Hajj. So people were coming, this tribe of Jurhum, who settled in this area with Nabi Ismail, they figured, we've settled on a gold mine here. People from all over the world are coming to this town. They're coming to perform the Hajj. When they come from all the lands, they want to eat, they want to drink. We can make something out of this. So they started developing a business out of it. I'm trying to give you the backdrop of what Quraish is. Quraish started here. Thousands of years before, they were called Quraish. So now they want to make a business out of it. So when people come to Hajj, they're gaining from it. Now, Ismail, descendants down, generations down, they were eclipsed by Jurhum. The people of Jurhum were great chiefs. So the sons of Ismail, they were known as the descendants of Ismail. They didn't have any power in that area. They had no wealth. Jurhum would take all the wealth, they put the gold under the ground, and it was theirs. Jurhum would control everything in and around Mecca. So when people come for Hajj, this happened for hundreds of years. And hundreds of years, the sons of Ismail were kept away from power. They were a minority. Then came a Yemeni tribe, hundreds of years later. We're going through thousands of years right now in just a few minutes. Then came a tribe called Khuza'a. Khuza'a was a Yemeni tribe that came into Mecca. Khuza'a was also a minority. They made a deal with the sons of Ismail, descendants down, generations down, in order to make a coup against Jurhum. He was taking everything. He was owning all the wealth. So of course, the sons of Ismail, so thirsty and hungry for some wealth, for some power, they agreed. And they had a battle with Jurhum. And Jurhum was exiled outside of Mecca. So now people of Jurhum are outside. Only Khuza'a and the sons of Ismail are in Mecca now. But it became even worse. Khuza'a took the gold of Jurhum, and they took control. And again, the sons of Ismail were eclipsed, without any power. But it was worse, because Khuza'a brought with them the idols. That's when idolatry and paganism started taking place. So they brought in a statue called Hubal. They put it next to the Kaaba. Slowly people started coming to Hajj. The Kaaba was holy, so was Hubal. And later on, Al-Lat, Al-Uzza, these pagan gods, they were brought in by Khuza'a. Over generations, 360 pagan gods were worshipped around the Kaaba. 360 idols placed around the Kaaba. 360 of them. Now, The humans throughout history, they would worship stars, they would worship the sun, they would worship the moon, the seas. They always worshipped something. The human being within his innate nature, he wants to worship a higher being. He wants to worship something. Even now, we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we still feel that we want something. We're meant for something. There's a hole inside us, we want to go towards it. Even now people ask me, what am I meant to do? What am I going for? What am I yearning for? And it's all Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's that same feeling that even the pagans had. The pagans had that same feeling. They wanted to worship. But they worshipped through the material. But it came from a good place. In the same way right now, every single person in this room yearns for something infinite. And the hole inside is infinite. And we fill it in with as much as we can, of family, of friends, of wealth, of jobs, of ideas, of goals. But we always want more, more, more. It's almost as if we're worshipping more. And that's the gist of it all. We are worshipping more. Because more is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no more except Allah. Allah is infinity. Your infinite hole inside will never be satisfied except if you fill it with infinity. Is just in between the lines, the circle of life, that we're born. We come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we're born, and we go through adolescence, and we go through marriage. Now we want to get married, we want to have kids, now we want to have kids. Then we want to go to university, then you want to become CEO of the company. It's always more and more and more. You always have something else you want to do. Me personally, my parents would always say, we want to go back to Lebanon one day. As much as they did in London, Lebanon was always there, but when they go to Lebanon, they want to go back to London. No, because it's not home. They want to go home, they want to go home. That's not home. Home is the beginning of the circle, where you started. That's home, back with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In any case, back to our history. These pagans, they were worshipping because they felt that they had to worship. But they were taken advantage of. Paganism became a business. You know, the human being, because he's material, and he understands the material the most, they even worship through material. If I right now spoke some philosophical ideas to you guys, it might be difficult. If I bring some fruits and make examples of them, it begins to make sense. So for them, they may have started out by worshipping the pagan god in order to worship God. But then they lost it in itself. The material became God. The material God became Allah to them. And they would fight in the name of Al-Uzza or Lat. They would kill, they would sacrifice for them, they'd do whatever they can for them. These were their gods now, they worshipped them. And the businesses thrived on this. Because they would create gods for them to buy. So it was a business as well. And they would dress them in the best clothes. And sometimes, they'd even make them out of food sometimes. The Arabs are really funny. When you look at their history, like to us it seems ridiculous, but to them, if you look at the history and the poetry that they would write, the ancient Arabian poetry, how they would be towards these gods. There's even one Arab would put a bowl of milk next to his god, next to the pagan statue, and think that they're going to drink, and the fox would come and drink it. So the next day he'd put another bowl of milk, and the fox would come and drink it, and he'd be angry. He's like, "Sort yourself out, the fox keeps drinking your milk." And he's telling his god that. This is how they were. This is the kind of people that were in Arabia at the time. And the businesses, they loved it. And the people gained. Everyone was winning. Because the businesses gained money from it. And whenever the people wanted to sacrifice for their statue, because they wouldn't go to Mina anymore to sacrifice. They would sacrifice to the idol. When they sacrifice, they would donate. They would donate to the chiefs. So it became a business. They would donate it. So they were happy, they were getting closer to the aristocracy, so everyone who donates becomes higher in society. See, when we're looking at this, we might think this is so far away from us, you know, paganism doesn't matter to us now, but it does. The people still do this now. Well, it's sad to see that even in mosques around everywhere, people, when they want to donate, you have to say their name. They tell you, make sure to say my name. Might tell you how to spell it, that way. Now, it's the same thing these guys were doing. They're donating to this pagan god, so that they can grow in their society. So everyone here was winning. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam.
صل على محمد وآل.
And for generations, the chiefs take advantage of this. And even right now, within ourselves, although we are Muslims, although we are fasting right now, although we pray 5 times a day, sometimes the person doing sujood, sometimes he's doing sujood to himself. Sometimes we worship ourselves. Sometimes there's a sanam inside. Sanama nafsihi. Sanama nafsih. The idol of beauty within us, of money. The idol of wealth, of dunya. We worship these idols within us. On the outside, I might have a beard, you might have a scarf. On the inside, I might be just like the pagans. On the inside, some people worship their iPhones. Sometimes right now, our state, if you were to sit still at the river for 10 minutes without any form of technology, a lot of people begin to get anxious. They have to check the Facebook, they have to check this is the state we're in. This is just a different form of idolatry. It's still here. We might laugh now, how's he putting some milk out for the statue? But it's still here. It's still here inside. So in this month, Ramadan comes along and tells you, hey, stop what you're doing. Let's see what you're addicted to. Cigarettes and coffee, those are the idols that you worship. You might not be able to fast because you're smoking and you're addicted to this caffeine. Even that, you can't fast. So Ramadan wants to take that out of the way. So no more paganism within us even. Complete tawheed. Sallallahu alayhi wa Muhammad. So now Khuza'a came in, they bought the asnam, they bought the idols, the pagans are in control, the sons of Ismail still have no control. Then came a man called Hussain. Hussain was a son of Ismail, thousands of years later. He's the 4th grandfather of Rasulullah. So Hussain is the father of Abu Manaf. Abu Manaf is the father of Hashim. You know Bani Hashim? That's him. Hashim is the father of Abdul Muttalib. Abdul Muttalib is the father of Abdullah. And Abdullah is the father of Muhammad. Sallallahu alayhi wa Muhammad. So now Hussain comes along, and some people, there's an opinion that he's a prophet, there's an opinion that he's a wali, he's a special man. And he's married to the daughter of the chief of Khuza'a, who is in charge now, the tribe in charge. He's married to the daughter. And there is no inheritor for the chief of Khuza'a. So he dies, and the key to the Kaaba, which Khuza'a had, went to his daughter, and so it went to Hussain. For the first time in history, the sons of Ismail had the keys to the Kaaba. Hussain had it. And now he was going to change everything. The first thing Hussain did with this new power was bring all of the people of the descendants of Ismail to the Kaaba, to live near it. Because before, everyone would live far away from the Kaaba. They would live even 1,000 kilometers, 1 kilometer away, 1,000 meters away, 800 meters away. They would respect the Haram. There was a Haram in Mecca, the Haram right now. Jibreel took Ibrahim around 12 kilometers here, 12 kilometers here, 7 here. There was a Haram, an area where it had special rules. Mecca, the Kaaba was its center. Man dakhala fiha kana amina. Whoever went inside was safe. You can't kill a mosquito inside. You can't cut a tree inside. This is where we go to Hajj. That's when Imam Hussain knew that Yazid's army was coming. He left Mecca out of respect for the Haram. He doesn't want blood to be shed inside the Haram. So now, people wouldn't live around the Kaaba. Hussain changed that. Hussain brought all the people of the descendants of Ismail and made them live 20 meters around the Kaaba. And the shapes of the houses were in spheres out of respect for the Kaaba. And now people would see them as holy. You know the same thing that with the idols? He was trying to do that with the descendants of Ismail. So now they were all living around. You know when someone says Arish al-Fatura, Quraish, right? That's gathering. Quraish, Quraish. That's how the name came, Quraish. He gathered them around the Kaaba. They became Quraish, Quraish. So now there's Quraish. This is the tribe of Quraish. The descendants of Ismail that went through generations of oppression. And now they finally had the power. He made them live around the Kaaba. Now they had this holy site about them. The second thing he did was create the HQ for the people of Quraish to discuss what their plans were going to be, who we're going to invite, where we're going, what we're doing next. This gave them a central area of power. Slowly they were growing in their society. People would notice them. Now they had the keys to the Kaaba. The people who came to Hajj would see them. Hussain made everyone come around the Kaaba. He formed the HQ. Then he put up a banner, a special banner, a flag for Quraish, to separate them from anyone else. Now Quraish had his own flag. That was very important at the time. The flag bearer, who would hold the banner, that would tell the army that the war is still going, to go forward, to go backwards. That's why Imam Ali would always go straight away to the flag bearer to fight him, and he would always hold the flag himself, hold the banner of Islam. Now Quraysh had their own banner. Quraysh had their own banner, and it separated them from all the other tribes. That's the third thing. The fourth thing, and the main thing that Hussain did that formed the power of Quraysh, was water wells around Mecca. So anyone who was coming to perform the Hajj, they would have, so they had a lot of slaves, they formed the water wells, they'd have water everywhere. Hashim, he would send camels around, hundreds of camels, and bring back food for all the Hajjis. So the people had, that would cost a lot, but of course, would cover it. All the people coming would cover it. And here Quraysh started to grow. And Quraysh started to become Ahlullah. They were known as Ahlullah now. The people of God. Ahlul Kaaba. Banu Ismail. Banu Ibrahim. Now they were holy. Now, if you were a Qurayshi these generations down, you could not marry anyone else except from Quraysh. If someone saw a man from Quraysh walking, and he was holding something, he would run and hold it for him. They were holy. You can't touch them. You can never hit them. If you ever think about hitting them, the sky will fall down. These are the same people generations before they were eclipsed. Now they are Ahlullah. Now they are the chosen ones on earth. That's how they believe they are. This is what Rasulullah came to now. Generations down, Abu Sufyan, Abu Jahl, all these people that stood against Rasulullah, they had the Quraishi mentality. And we said yesterday, their asabiyya, their prejudice and their racism was like no other tribe. Like no other tribe. They were so powerful. And they were powerful because, you know how we said yesterday, there were no rivers. So tribes would separate. So a button of 100, for example, would go on its own so that thousands don't walk together. Tribes would separate. So Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The tribes would separate. But Quraysh would never separate. They would all grow in Mecca. They would keep growing and growing and growing. Why would you want to leave? You're Ahlullah. How could you leave Mecca? Here, you're sacred. Everyone who comes here, you're special. They'll touch you to take barakah from you. And they themselves felt like emperors. Now there were different tribes in Quraysh, different levels. But Quraysh in itself was sacred amongst all the Arabs. And so the tribes were so huge that they gathered against Rasulullah in Uhud 3,000 warriors. That's 3,000 cousins. 3,000 cousins going to fight. No one in Arabia could do that. To get 3,000 from one family, all from Quraysh. They were huge, they had so much power. And they developed a pathway of business through Arabia. So there's a pathway, at that time Persia and the Romans, they were at war. So there was no business between them. So it was east versus west. The Quraysh, they took advantage of this. So in their HQ they would say, I'm going to Sham. Does anyone want anything from Sham? And people would say, yeah, here's 5 dirhams, I want these clothes from Damascus, here's 10 dirhams, it ends up with about 500,000 dirhams, 1,000, 2,000 camels as a caravan to take to Damascus, do business there, then come back to Mecca, it was international, then come to Yemen, do business there, go back to Mecca, then go to the Khalij, the Persians, do business there. They had this pathway. And the reason they could do that was because on the way, although there were desert tribes, They would make a pact with them. That's what it is in the Quran. It's لِإِلَافِ Quraish. لِإِلَافِ Quraish. It's these agreements between the tribes. These tribes, if Quraish is making an agreement with you, you accept. It's Quraish. So Abu Jahl or Abu Sufyan, they would invite the other tribes, the leaders of the other tribes, to their house. They would sleep over. People outside would think, wow, this man is amazing. He's a friend of Abu Sufyan. Abu Sufyan would go to Damascus. He would stay with the ambassador of the Romans, for example. He's an emperor now. So he comes back, wow, Abu Sufyan. Now the Arabs have an emperor themselves. Quraish, they had this aura about them. So all these tribes along the desert were in pact, Quraish. So Quraish was safe. And they kept growing. And their wealth kept growing. And every year the people came for Hajj. And every year they made more money. And they would have a rule that the clothes for Ihram have to be from inside Mecca. You can't buy outside. So they would buy, for example, for 1 dirham, the material of the clothes, and they would sell them for 100 dirhams. And those who couldn't afford them would walk around Mecca naked. They used to walk around the Kaaba naked. It was normal. No one would say anything. They walk around naked because they can't afford the clothes in the Haram. So Quraish had this power now. All the Arabs would do whatever it says. All the Arabian tribes. And that's why it was so difficult for Rasulullah to spread Islam in this area. Although the tribes were finished, Rasulullah was a Quraishi himself. He was brought into Quraish. As he's speaking the message of Islam, they would never accept. If he wants to speak to the Arabians outside of Quraish, they wouldn't accept. Why? Because Quraish wouldn't accept. And Ahlullah. Quraish is Ahlullah. If Quraish doesn't accept, we will never accept. Rasulullah used to say, الناس كلهم تبعا لقريش. All the people, they're followers of Quraish. They do whatever Quraish wants. When Imam Ali alayhi salam couldn't be the Khalifa, when Saqifa happened, that's because of Quraish. See, people became Muslims, but inside their heart, they still had the love for their tribe. Inside their heart, they still loved Quraish. They still wanted the leader to be a Quraishi. Imam Ali was a Quraishi, but he doesn't care about Quraish. He doesn't care about them getting special treatment. Quraishis are worried about this. They can't have that. So they gathered together. So Imam Ali alayhi salam, when he's saying, the next morning, I want those who will make me victorious to be with me and shave their heads. And only 4 or 5 come to help him. 4 or 5. Only 4 or 5. In all of Medina. Because of Quraish. See, when someone's studying history and they don't know about Quraish, things don't make sense as much. Imam Hussain, Karbala, Quraish. Yazid is from Quraish. Muawiyah is from Bani Umayyah. That's a tribe within Quraish. When you understand what Quraish is, this history of Quraish is necessary for us to know. To understand what Rasulullah came to, who he came to speak to. So 18 years, the Arabs wouldn't accept Rasulullah's message. 18 years. You know, even till now, Quraishis, they still run everything. Coincidentally, we have certain Sayyids. Sayyids are from Quraish. All the Sayyids are from Quraish, because they're from Rasulullah. Rasulullah's from Quraish. So I'm a Quraishi, basically. Even right now, we have a certain Sayyid in Lebanon, a Sayyid in Iran, a Sayyid in Iraq. They're all Sayyids. They're all the leaders. They're still Quraish. You see, it's still Quraish. And there are some people that are good from Quraish, some people are bad from Quraish. Not everyone's bad from Quraish. Rasulullah's from Quraish. But you see, when you understand Quraish, you understand the political arena of everything. And Quraish, they ran Islam for like 650 years after the Prophet passed away. 650 years, Islam was run by Quraish. That's why we're going to speak about Rasulullah's history. There are going to be so many misconceptions we're going to be talking about, and stories that came out afterwards that are not true, that we believe to be true, and they're not. And you guys are going to be surprised by this. But it's because Quraish altered history. You know, they say the ones who are victorious are the ones who write history. Quraish lived on and they wrote history. And that's why the mainstream version of Islam there's misconception about it. So much of it is not true. Quraish. Now outside of Quraysh, the Arabs themselves have different traditions. Like in Quraysh, they wouldn't necessarily bury their daughters. You guys, it's famous that the Arabs, the ancient Arabs, used to bury their daughters alive because they were so sexist. The Quraysh wouldn't have to do that, they could protect each other. But the other Arabs, they would dig holes and bury their daughters in them. They were scared that other tribes would take the females as slaves. Would take them from them. They were a weak part of the tribe, so he used to kill them. He would kill his daughter, 4 or 5 years old, he would dress her up, he would take her to the mountainous area, she'd think she's going out, he'd throw her off a cliff. The Arabs were very primitive. And they would have unlimited amount of wives. There was no limit to how many wives they'd have. These are the people outside of Quraysh, in the Arabian Peninsula that Rasulullah tried to speak to as well. As many wives as they wanted. And there was no iddi for the woman. When there was a divorce, so usually the woman has to go through 2 menstrual cycles before she can get married again. Here they didn't have the iddi. So now she'd get married, divorce, marry again straight away. Children would be born, the fathers would not be known. They used to have groups who would look at how they look and how they look and say, this is his son, this is his son. Imagine they had Maury Povich back then. I said, I'm not the daddy. That's what I thought when I was reading it in the book. Yeah. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Then Rasulullah comes to them and he's telling them about equality, and he says you can't marry what woman you want. He says marry a woman of your choice in 2s and 3s and 4s, but if you can't do justice between them, marry only one. Quran says that. No other holy book says that. No other holy book has that phrase, marry only one. A lot of people have a problem with the fact that 4 are allowed. They don't see that phrase at the end of it. If you can't do justice between them, marry only one. And that's not in any other holy book. Right? Rasulullah is preaching this now, and all these people with a limited amount of wives, and Ahlullah, and we do whatever we want. They're thinking, what's this guy talking about? He wants equality between everyone? No way. So they warred him. 18 years. Rasulullah only gained the people just a couple of years before his death. His whole life was full of war. When they tell us he spread Islam through the sword. Always defending himself. Always in peace. Always getting attacked by everyone. This was all in Mecca. This was all in Mecca. We know that Rasulullah did hijrah to Medina. In Medina, he also faced certain tribes that were a thorn in his eye. Banu Qaynuqa', Banu Nadir, Banu Qurayza. These tribes were Jewish tribes. And they used to live along in Khaybar, Jews. In Fadak, Jews. It was Jewish lands. Now how did Jews end up in Medina, in Arabia? Again, we go back to Nabi Ibrahim. Again, Ismail went to Arabia. Ishaq stayed in Palestine. Ishaq had a son called Yaqub. Nabi Yaqub, who is referred to as Israel. Bani Israel are the sons of Yaqub. And Yaqub's sons, who were they? Nabi Yusuf and his brothers who put him in the well, right? These are Bani Israel. So the sons of Yaqub. And we know the story. And in the end, Yusuf went to Egypt. But the Quran, you know what it says about Bani Israel? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنِّي فَضَّلْتَكُمْ عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ. I prefer you over all the world, all the people. Why is there this tafdeel for those Jews? The Jews, Bani Israel. Why is there tafdeel for them? Because they were monotheists. They were the people on earth who used to believe in God at that time. They were the monotheists. So, Ibrahim, Ishaq, Yaqub, Yusuf, those were, and their people were the monotheists. But this tafdeel ended. See, they still go on like it's still there. This tafdeel ended when they entered Egypt and they stopped being monotheists. Because they also became pagans. When they entered Egypt and generations later, they got into Egyptian society, they also became pagans. They also worshipped other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's no more tafdeel. And Quraish, by the way, get this idea from here, Ahlullah, that comes from here. But there's no more tafdeel. Then Moses had to come, take Bani Israel outside of Egypt to the desert to purify them and bring them back to monotheism. And they would tell him, Ij'al lana sanaman, make for us an idol. So we're pagans. They're pagans. Make for us an idol. So Moses would have to purify them all over again. And after the desert, a few things happen over the next thousands of years. We're not going to have time for that. I'm boring you too much with history right now, but inshallah tomorrow Rasulullah is born, so we get to the good stuff. Right? In the end, these Jews, who went through slavery, went through much oppression, they were waiting for their Savior. There was a Messiah coming to them that was told to them in the Torah. They went to Arabia, waiting for him. They thought he's going to be one of them, because they are Ahlullah also. They are also the chosen ones. And you know, they still have that till now. You guys have seen that video? This is my land, God gave it to me. This is my land. This all comes from here. It's all from here. This ideology is all from history. And so they went to Medina. And now, in Medina, they formed their tribes, their areas. They had a certain way of living. The Jews in Arabia had a certain way of living. They'd always live together. They'd always live separate. They would take care of each other. And they realized to control society, they needed the wealth. So for example, Banu Qaynuqa, they would be the ones who would control the gold market. And people would come to the Jews to loan money from them and pay them back in interest. From back then. So when Rasulullah was kicking out Banu Nadir, he's exiling them from Medina because they had broken the allegiance of peace. They told them, how can we leave all the people here? Not one house didn't owe them money. Not one house. So Rasulullah said, how much do they owe you? They told him. He saw how much, he calculated how much they got paid back. He said, they paid you back. He said, no interest. And Rasulullah didn't accept the interest and told them to leave. But you see, it was like modern day banks back then. So they control society through wealth. And they used to make the weapons. And they owned the weapons. So they would give different tribes different weapons. So in Medina there was Aus and Khazraj. And we're going to talk about these tribes in depth. The Aus and Khazraj used to hate each other in Medina. It was almost as if they had a treaty to always kill each other through generations. And the Jews, they would give these people weapons, and they'd give these people weapons. And these people would annihilate each other. Right? And if you look right now, modern day, you look who owns the music industry. You look who owns the weapon companies. Look at the banks, Wall Street. History, man. It's all history. See? It didn't just pop into existence that way. It's been that way for a long time. So when you understand history, you understand why the world is the way it is right now. And so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to Medina, and these are the people that he was sent to. And he would tell them, you're waiting for me. But they wouldn't accept, because he's not from Banu Israel. He's not from them. They would never accept someone who's not from them. And some of them would know that this is the promised one, this is the Messiah, and they would not accept. And so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he went from Mecca to Medina, he faced much oppression, and he had to battle the Jewish tribes as well as the Arabs all around. And these are the issues we're going to be going into in the coming days. Tomorrow, inshallah, we'll be talking about the birth of Rasulullah and his childhood. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from ever worshipping other than Him, to make this month for us a month where we change, we grow, so at the end of the month, we know that we are not the same, we are closer to Him than before. And inshallah, every year we come closer and closer. May God protect our brothers and sisters in Syria, in Lebanon, in Iraq, in Iran, in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and all the Muslims all around the world. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi al-tayyibin al-tahirin. Brothers and sisters, if anyone has any questions, I'm at your service. If you want to ask now, for everyone to benefit from, or you want to ask me when I'm in the corner there, you're more than welcome. Okay? Sallallahu Muhammad wa alihi Muhammad.
Sayyid, can you give us maybe a couple of websites that if somebody wants to look up these stories, proper websites that you would recommend for our community to find these stories or to understand the history without having to read books?
Without having to read books?
Without
That's
having
tough.
to look up actual books, like if there are actual websites that provide you.
You know the problem with this? The reason why I chose to talk about this topic over 20 nights is because we don't have it, unfortunately. There is one book, it's a book. We don't have it. We don't have content about history about Rasulullah, unfortunately. There's one book by Sheikh Subhani called The Message. But even that book was a bad translation. There's on alislam.org, Islam.org, there's one PDF, and it has the history, the analytical history of the Prophet's life. That may be helpful, but that's not a concise life story. It brings you different stories from the Western philosophers and Western historians about Rasulullah's life. And it gives you like different paragraphs from their books. So it's not a concise biography. So I thought, because most of the books are in Arabic, I figured I'd try to give the lectures in a way where we could understand them, but unfortunately they're in Arabic. If someone wants the content in Arabic, I have that. Sayyid Ja'far Murtada has a mawsu'a about the life of Prophet Muhammad, from the things he would eat to how he would walk. Very, very detailed. Sayyid Ja'far Murtada. But that's in Arabic. And it's just stories of his life. And it has the narrations and the chain of narrators and everything that he went through. So it's just Sayyid Ja'far Murtada's.
Thank you.
Welcome. Anyone else? Okay, Salam alaikum.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Again, brothers and sisters, we'd like to thank you all for joining us. Inshallah, we'll see you all tomorrow, 7 p.m. Please spread the word to family and friends. We're also live streaming this. You can find the link on our Facebook page, IILK Online. Inshallah, we'll see you all tomorrow. And if anybody has any questions or anything that you'd like to ask the Sayyid, he's going to be sitting here for a while, so don't be scared. Okay? Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam.